Hello and a very happy Sunday to you. It's Sarah here from Funky Fossil with another episode of our Make It Sunday videos. And I've got some actual daylight in the studio today, so I'm hoping the glare doesn't distract you too much, but it just felt too nice not to have the curtains open and some natural light on our desk today. So we're definitely in springtime mode. And no surprises, I'm running short of time. I think I say that every week. And I wanted to do something really clean and simple today. Real less is more. Kind of back to where I started with my whole kind of card making journey. My kind of first love was using the images and the white space to really kind of make something really crisp and fresh. And maybe it's the springtime, maybe it's just that kind of starting a kind of new season that's made me just wanted to kind of pull it back and do something really, really kind of simple and fresh for you today. So what I think I'm going to do, and I haven't made my mind up 100%, is I think I'm going to do some ink blending and have a section of my my kind of card panel masked off, and we'll just do a panel of colour on the card front. And for that kind of design, then silhouettes work beautifully as a stamped image over the top, because you've not got to worry too much about masking and kind of or cutting out images and putting them on top. I want everything to be kind of one layer if I can. So I thought I'd get out this fabulous Woodcut Woodlands A5 stamp set, which we have had out maybe probably 18 months ago or so. I've only got a few left, so I'll be putting these and this lovely little versatile stencil, which I think is called In the Air, on as our Sunday Makers bundle. But these, of course, these nice solid designs are going to be able to sit perfectly over an inked background without me needing to work too hard to incorporate them. So they're definitely going to feature in my make today. I think I'm also, so that's the Sunday Maker bundle, but I think I might also use our recently released Love You to the Moon layered stencil, and the part that I want to use, and let me get the one that I've got open out for you to see. I think I'm going to use the moon element of it, so I'm not going to be using the full letters, the love part of it, but I think the moon might be the right scale for this make. I do have a stencil called Full Moon, and it's it's exactly that same design, but it's a larger layered moon stencil, but I think I want something a little bit smaller on this project, so that would be the perfect moon for me to use. I also have on my desk, and I don't know if I'm going to use it, I also have our Tall Grass stamp set by Kim Dello. This has recently come back into stock because it has sold out a couple of times, and I particularly like the foliage on this one for this kind of make, so I might use it. I haven't made my mind up, so it's here on my desk. If I decide to pull it in and use it, you know where it's from. Now, what I have got done already, it is nothing really. All I've got is some Pink Frog super smooth white cardstock, and I have cut it down to 5x7. The reason I'm doing 5x7 is I'm thinking it's a good card size, but equally, if I decide actually to put this into my journal, it will work as a journal page, or I can mat and layer it onto an A5 piece of card and make it as a journal page. I mean, it'd be fine by itself, or I could make it into a bigger page if I wanted to. So I am undecided today about what the kind of end product will be used for, whether it will be a card or a journal, which is kind of where I start with a lot of projects. And I think that's one of the nice things about our disc-bound journal system, is you can start with that blank piece of card and not necessarily have to commit too early as to what you're actually going to do with it. So I've got some masking tape, and what I'm going to do is mask off a section of this card panel. So I'm going to have a quick detack on my jeans. This masking tape is normally relatively good, but I don't want to take any chances. So I think I'm going to do the masked area to the to the side. It's not going to be central, it's going to be off to the side. So I'm kind of masking off one side. I think that's pretty much straight, isn't it? Kinda straight. And then we'll do another strip of masking tape. This is, of course, you can use washi tape for this. Anything that has a relatively repositionable, removable. I'd like to use one that has a reasonable width to it, because obviously it means you can do your blending without worrying too much about going outside of that masked area. I'm just kind of trying to eyeball a panel size that's kind of going to give me, so that's the space that we're going to work in between those two yellow lines. And I think this of these designs on this stamp set, I really always love this hair. So I'm thinking the hair's probably going to be towards the bottom there, and of course it's already going to take your eye up the card and be looking upwards. So then if we put a little mask up here, and that's where our moon will go if I mask that area off. And what I'm going to do, my plan is that my stamped image is going to fall outside of this inked panel to some extent, so it's going to break that line, which I think is a really nice way of kind of making the composition a little less rigid. If you've got one part of your image just kind of taking your eye outside of the coloured area, so I think that's quite a good line of sight. You could, of course, I mean this piece of mylar is from the Love You to the Moon laid stencil, so I leave the middle of the O in there for you as a solid mask. So I've got that, and I know it's going to fit the stencil itself, but of course you don't need to have a moon design on your card. You could just have a die cut circle that you use as a mask for this, and use that as a sun or a moon. So again, I'm sure you'll have something that you can put your hands on that are going to give you that masked area. So I'm just going to use, just to make life a bit easier, I'm going to use my what's it called, the Stick and Spray, that repositionable stencil spray. So I'm just giving it a shake off camera, and I'll just give it a quick, it just means I can get to blending without worrying too much about holding this down. So if we'll put it like that. Right, so if I'm thinking a moon, obviously I'm thinking a nighttime scene. So I've got my blues here, plenty of blue Distress Oxides, and I'm going to kind of go with a bit of an ombre. So I'm going to start darkest at the top, yeah, because I don't want it too dark at the bottom, because obviously we want our silhouette image to pop. So I'm going to start with Chipped Sapphire at the top. I'm just verbalising my thought process aloud in the hope that it makes some kind of sense to you. So I hope that you are feeling creative this Sunday, have had a lovely week. We didn't do a Make It Sunday last week because we were at the NEC show, so I just ran out of time between kind of getting the stock and the van and everything packed for that. I ran out of time to record a video, so it's quite nice to be back doing a bit of creating today. So I'm trying to, you can see, just trying sticking within my lines and build that colour up. So I'm going to be I really do want to just keep it simple and be chilled today. which is what Sunday crafting is all about, isn't it, really? And we have had some glorious weather this week. I hope you've been able to enjoy it, but that's why I've got the light coming in this morning. It's just nice to be able to create in daylight for a change. So that's going to work nicely. Let's have some prize ribbon, which is still a nice strong blue. The Chipped Sapphire's got, I think, kind of a hint or an element of a kind of a violety purple in it, so perfect for night skies. And then prize ribbons are more, is navy blue the right word? I think so. I love making cards like this because it's the joy of the reveal when you take the masking tape off. As long as you don't tear your card in the process, it's always a bit of a pain. But I just love that when you see that line where the tape's kind of protected the card. So what I typically do with a blend like this is just kind of go back in with the first colour, just to make sure that it doesn't look too stripy. And then towards the bottom here, I'm going to go with Salvage Patina. I am thinking maybe peacock feathers might have been a better blue, slightly more colour to it, but I don't have that here, so we'll see what colour we can build up with Salvage Patina. I've got a brush that I think had some peacock feathers on, so I'll probably get a bit of both. And here I'm going to start from the bottom and work up towards that prize ribbon. Oh, the light's coming in quite strongly now. Hopefully the lines from my window aren't going to distract you too much. Isn't it typical? It was quite overcast when I started. There we go. My ink pads are relatively dry, so I'm having to work quite hard to kind of get a good enough amount of ink out of them. These are my favourite colours, so they do get a lot of use. So if I just pull that prize ribbon down a little bit further, I can soften that blend a little bit. I think that's going to look good. Well, that is distracting, isn't it, that light? I might need to turn the cameras off in a second and put the blinds back up. But before I do that, let's just add the colour into the moon. Oh, that's the wrong way around, isn't it? Let's add the colour into the moon, and then I can readjust my blinds and we'll do the next bit of the process. My nails. There we go. So just even that looks, I think, really lovely, and just that crisp white there. So you might decide that gives you the contrast that you want. You don't need to do anything more to it. I'm going to add a little bit of shade because, of course, things are very, as it is, as a white disc, it could look a little bit flat. So if I now go in, as you can see here, with the O aperture from the Love stencil, and we can put a little bit of colour in, not a lot, but just something to give it a bit of dimension. So I've got weathered wood here, which is quite a nice. going off on a bit of scrap paper there to take off any excess. I'm not worrying too much about kind of going into the E, because this is a much paler colour than the ink I've already put down, so it really won't make much difference if it just appears below that line. So I'm just trying to go in. Can you see that? Just pulling in a little bit more at the edge, just to give us a little bit of visual shading. That looks good. So if I now go in, just trying to eyeball where the remainder of that O would be if it was on the card front. If I go in with the detail of the moon over the top. Let's see, should I try with a little bit of black, or will that be too intense? Let's have a look. I think I've got, there we go. I've got a blending brush with black on it already. So what I will do is it's already got plenty of ink on there. I don't need to re-ink that. And it won't be too strong then if I... Perfect. So before we reveal this and do and take the masking tape off and then do our stamping element to it, I am going to readjust those pesky blinds, because the daylight has sabotaged my my view here, and you can just far too many shadows on the desk. So bear with me while I readjust the blinds, and I'll be back with a slightly better shot of the desk in a minute. Right, hopefully the lighting is a little bit better now. Just done a bit of surgery on the blinds so that I've got a bit of daylight but not the glare from the sun. So the fun bit, let's try and take this masking tape away from our inked panel and see what we're left with. So I'm just going to be really gentle with it. I just love that crisp line from the ink. I'm just going to try and salvage this masking tape, stick it to the side. It's like the effect you get when you put the tape around the borders of a card, so you ink into the centre and you create that frame, that crisp white frame around it. Always makes me happy. There we go. So that looks really, really cool. You see? Really lovely. Looks a bit better when you take it away from the ink on the base there. So we've got a nice crisp border to the side, and then we've got a nice panel of white down the other side. So we're creating that kind of real sense of there being just a shaft of colour down the card front. So let's add, what should we do first? Let's add our little hare first and foremost. So we'll stamp him in. Now I will use a stamping platform for this, because obviously this is one of those occasions where you do want your image to be a really good solid black, so it gives you the opportunity to go back in and strengthen that colour if you need to. Particularly as you can see, I'm taking out of the stamp set for the first time, so you can sometimes have a little bit of residue on the photopolymer stamp, so that first stamp isn't always guaranteed to be the crispest one that you get. So that's, as I say, I'm going to put our lovely hair off outside of the line, so he's drawing the eye into that coloured area of the card. Let's just try and keep myself in shot. Let's get some. I was thinking it could be either the dark blue from the VersaFine Clair, but I think I'm going to go the black and go for the strongest contrast. Get a nice solid colour on him. And I suppose we're still in March, aren't we? Of course, the March hare. So that's quite a nice seasonal image for that. Let's have a look. Yeah, lovely. That's worked nicely, hasn't it? The first stamp, so I'm pleased with that. So, do we want any other images from the stamp set to build a bit of a scene down here for our... I could put a little, yeah, let's put the little toadstools next to him. And then, yeah, then we can put the stencil, one of the stencil images they can be looking up at alongside the moon. Where the toes, there we go. I do love these images. So this designer, Mabs and Wal, she does a lot of kind of folk art inspired imagery, and it kind of has a bit of a lino cut feel to it. So quite a stylized imagery, and quite solid. You know, it's almost like you could have done them as a stamp carving effectively. So I love that style because I think it's great for working with against kind of inky backgrounds. So I'm just going to wipe this magnet off. I'm not sure if it's left a bit of residue at the bottom there. It probably has, because I'm sure my foam is pretty grungy. It'll be no surprise to you that I'm not very good at cleaning off the foam on the stamp platform. So sometimes when I lift these card fronts, it's picked up all sorts of ink from the actual stamping foam. Which, of course, when you're doing less is more cards, they're not so forgiving for the odd smudge and mark that you don't intend to be there. So it's a practice I need to try a bit harder with. So I've got my lovely little toadstools down here. Because this polymer is new, fresh stamps, it's quite sticky. It will lift the card as you... I need more magnets. It'll lift the card as you... There we go. This would be this little toadstool here will be a lovely element to either put on the envelope or within the card as well, as a little motif that carries through. That's nice, isn't it? Right. Now we have a bit of a dilemma, because I'm thinking... My dilemma being, and it's a shame you can't shout at the screen and I can hear you. My dilemma being, should I use some Stella paste to create a really kind of magical feel? Let's see which of these stencil images we're going to use, and that might help make the decision. So I could either go with the birds. I do like the birds, and I think I'd do them in black. Or I could do the stars, and I could do them in silver. I think I'm going to do the birds. so I think I will just do them in black. If I did the stars, I think I'd do them in the silver flash and the stellar paste, because that would be a lovely bit of dimension on the card front. So this is a very simple project today, but I think it's as much as anything about getting to a point where you can just get out your inks, just a few inks, a stamp set, maybe a stencil, and really just enjoy it, just have a bit of a mindful play. So I'm gonna, once again, this stencil, the birds are going to go outside the panel, so both of those, that area here, although it's going to be predominantly white, is still going to have some interest carried through into it. This bird is quite close to the top, or to the edge, sorry, of this stencil, so I am going to add a little bit of masking tape just to protect my card front. And I had a black, there we go. I think everything else is far enough away from the birds that I don't need to worry too much, but I was worried. Or maybe I do, maybe, there we go. I've got a smaller brush which will give me more control. We can put the black down, and if I decide, I wish I'd done it with a bit of paste, then of course I can always just go back over it with paste. And I'm blending here with my VersaFine. So I don't often use VersaFine as a blending ink through my stencils, but particularly for the black, because of the nice solid coverage you get, as you can see with the stamp below, I think this is a great one for silhouette stencils. It just gives them that definition. I would be struggling to get that same intensity of colour with something like Black Soot from the Distress range. It's just not got that same kind of true black to it. Yeah, that's nice. I'm looking at the camera just to see, and I think that's cool. So all we need really here is a sentiment, isn't it? And then I think the only thing I will add to complete this is a little bit of splatter, which of course will go beyond the inked panel. So once again, softening that line. It's very clear where the focal definition is, but having things coming out of the edge, I think, does help stopping it from being too rigid. So I'll go with Wild and Free. I have that up there too. I don't want it right in there. No, I think I'll take that one off as well. Do I have a stamp set? A crit block. I'm going to use my stamping platform, because this is the point, isn't it, where you get to the end, you're going to put a sentiment on, and then you worry that that will be the thing that goes wrong. So I'm not going to take any chances. I'm going to put it back in my platform. So there we go. Bit of black. Perfect. So all that remains on this one, I think if I was putting it on a card front, well, obviously if it was on a journal page, I probably would matte and layer it, and I think with a card front I'd matte and layer it on dark blue as well, because that would just give those white edges further definition. What shall I splatter on here? Should I go with some, what have I got around me that would I wonder whether I should splatter with the blues that I've used. I think that's all I've got to hand. Yeah, I think that will work. I was wondering whether to use some white and use a Dr. P.H. Martin to do some splattering, but of course that won't carry across onto the white space, so let's use prize ribbon. I'll put it off to one side on our mat. Maybe a bit. I feel like I ought to get the spray because at least it'll have the intensity. Let's see whether we can get any life out of this. So wetting a brush. I just don't know if I've got enough colour down on the mat. Let's see. Looks like that's carrying through. And the nice thing, of course, it's a distress, so even if what I'd splattered was more water than colour, of course you're going to get that wonderful speckle that comes from the oxidised ink on your card, so it couldn't go wrong. And broadly, just trying again to go to some degree on the diagonal there. I know you can't control splatter, but trying to make sure it's not covering the whole card front. Right, I'm going to turn off the camera. I'm going to matte and layer that onto some dark blue while that splatter dries, and then I think I'm probably going to do another one, do maybe a sunset image. It's exactly the same principle, so I won't talk through it and we'll speed it up, but then at least you can see two different looks at the end of the video. So let me just tidy this up and get started on another card front. Okay, so I've matted and layered the first card that we did, which I'm pleased with, but I'm also thinking it's a little bit flat, just a little bit flat in this area here. So what I'm going to do in this section, which I'm going to speed up, is I'm going to do more of a kind of sunset scene. So I've got my warm colours, so abandoned coral, spiced marmalade and fossilised amber. I've put my mask lower down on the panel, masked it off as I did before. Put this lower down so it's almost kind of be like a setting sun. I'm not going to use the moon area in it, I'm just going to add a bit of colour in it to make it more of a sun. But what I thought I might try is using our fabulous A7 bubble wrap stamp above the sun, just to kind of give it a bit of texture and a bit more visual interest on the panel as we go. So we'll just see how it plays out. Exactly the same technique, doing an ink blend, using my mask, doing a bit of silhouette stamping, but trying to add maybe a little bit more texture and interest on that ink panel. So that's really why I'm just explaining the addition of the bubble wrap before I start doing the inking. So as I say, I'll try not to talk from here on in, and you can watch me just bring this colour into the card, and we'll see what different we get with a different colour combo. Right, let's get going. So there we've got our two makes for this week's Make It Sunday. The first one that I did with you with the hare and the moon, both the same technique. The only thing that I really did differently on this one was add that bubble wrap in the background. So I inked it in the same colour as the distress that I'd been using for the blending, spritzed it with water to give me a kind of slightly more softer impression, and stamped that over the panel while the masking tape was still in place. And I think that gives it just a little bit more interest and texture in the background. Gold splatters on this one and distress ink splatters on the other, but again they just look really different because of that different colour combo. But those silhouette stamps from Mabs and Weil just work perfectly with this kind of stripe of colour on the card front, matted and layered and ready to go. So I shall be putting the link to our Sunday Maker bundle in the description box below. So that's our A5 stamp set and the In the Air stencil. You'll also be able to find the link to our A7 bubble wrap stamp, which I really think is an essential, definitely one to have in your stash. And I hope it's inspired you to get your inks and do a bit of blending today and enjoy that kind of simplicity. Go with something that's going to give you a really fresh feel on your cards as we're enjoying this spring weather. I hope your Sunday's a wonderful one. I hope the rest of your week is good, and I shall be back next week with some more ideas for getting the most out of your stamps, stencils and crafty stash. Bye for now.